The show fans refused to let die. Not many TV shows come back from cancellation, especially because of fan demand, but Family Guy was a rare exception. When it first aired in 1999, it immediately grabbed attention. It wasn't just another cartoon, it was daring, offensive, and completely unlike anything else on television. The show didn't cautiously approach boundaries, it bulldozed through them. Its edgy humor practically dared viewers to look away. Yet, despite building a passionate fan base, Fox canceled Family Guy after only 3 seasons due to lukewarm ratings and controversy. Fans didn't take this quietly. Outrage spread online, DVD sales skyrocketed, and passionate viewers launched petitions demanding the show's return. By 2005, the pressure became too much for Fox to ignore, and they finally brought Family Guy back. This revival wasn't just an ordinary renewal, it was a groundbreaking moment. For fans and creators alike, it felt like a triumphant return, a victory that proved fan passion could directly shape television history. But soon after its celebrated comeback, cracks in the show's foundation began to appear. The Golden Age, Seasons 1 through 6. Ask any Family Guy fan about the show's peak, and they'll point directly to Seasons 1 through 6. During this golden era, the show blended rapid-fire humor with structured storytelling, giving each joke purpose within the plot. Characters felt authentic and relatable. Peter was a lovable fool, Lois balanced chaos with reason, and Brian and Stewie provided sharp wit and depth. Even the surreal cutaway gags were fresh and cleverly placed, enhancing rather than distracting from the episodes. Family Guy wasn't just funny, it was groundbreaking. The revival and where things started to shift. When Family Guy returned in 2005, it felt like a cultural victory. Fans had successfully brought it back from cancellation, and the creators were eager to deliver. Early revival episodes were sharp, confident, and hilarious, like a celebration for the fans. But subtle changes soon emerged. Episodes leaned harder on shock humor, cutaway gags became longer and more frequent, and storytelling took a back seat. By Season 7, viewers noticed something important was missing: the heart and coherence that once defined the show. When jokes replaced story. Original Family Guy balanced wild gags with a clear plot. By Season 8, that balance collapsed. Episodes turned into chains of punchlines with only the thinnest thread connecting them. Scenes stalled for endless cutaways. Characters stopped making choices and started delivering setups. Without narrative stakes, even funny moments felt empty, quick laughs that went nowhere. Viewers were still chuckling, but they were no longer invested. Cutaways, from genius to gimmick. Early on, cutaway gags were Family Guy's secret weapon, brief, unexpected detours that turbocharged every episode. They expanded the show's universe without derailing the story. Over time, the formula flipped. Cutaways grew longer, cheaper, and painfully predictable. You'd hear, "This is worse than..."
"Oh, God, I'm screwed. This is worse than that time I had to fess up to the nation." "My fellow Americans, I have not been entirely truthful with you."
And no, a random sketch was coming. Instead of enhancing the plot, these interruptions replaced it, signaling thin scripts and easy laughs. What was once revolutionary had become a creative crutch. Character decay. The Griffins fall apart. As the jokes took over, the Griffins lost their depth. Peter shifted from harmless dope to outright bully. Lois abandoned her role as moral anchor, mirroring Peter's worst impulses. Brian's thoughtful cynicism curdled into smug hypocrisy, while Stewie's world domination genius dissolved into random quirks. Meg and Chris were reduced to one-note gags. With the core family flattened, the show's emotional center vanished, and the comedy that depended on it hollowed out. From satire to shock value. Classic Family Guy used outrageous humor to skewer politics, religion, and pop culture. It mocked hypocrisy while still making a point. In later seasons, that clever edge dulled. Satire gave way to pure provocation, nastier gore, edgier slurs, shock for shock's sake. The jokes no longer targeted issues, they just tried to outgross last week's episode. Without a meaningful aim, the boundary pushing felt lazy, and audiences stopped seeing brains behind the chaos. When weird became predictable. Early Family Guy thrived on surprise, a chicken fight erupting out of nowhere, or a sudden Disney-style universe. Eventually, the randomness calcified into a template. Peter does something reckless, Lois scolds. Brian and Stewie begin an unrelated side quest. Meg gets humiliated. Repeat. Even cutaways followed fixed cues. Remember when I... Cue gag, reset. Viewers could now guess every beat before it landed. In a show built on absurdity, predictability is fatal. Once fans could set their watches to the chaos, the magic was gone. Meg, from relatable outsider to perpetual punchline. Meg began as every awkward teen, craving acceptance, occasionally showing real insight. Over time, the writers stripped her down to a single joke, endless humiliation. Each scene became an excuse to insult, ignore, or physically harm her. What started as dark satire slid into repetitive cruelty, offering no growth, no subversion. Just the same. Shut Up, Meg beat on loop. Audiences stopped laughing and started cringing, sensing lazy writing where a sympathetic character used to be. Peter Griffin's slide, lovable idiot to walking menace. Early Peter was a goofy dad who flooded the basement or wore a ridiculous costume, boneheaded but harmless and oddly sweet. Over the years, that clumsy charm curdled. Modern Peter fakes his own death for attention, assaults family members for laughs, and leaves a trail of destruction with zero consequences. The character's moral compass vanished, replaced by shock-value cruelty. When the show's lead becomes irredeemable, empathy evaporates, and viewers no longer root for the chaos, they recoil from it. Brian and Stewie, depth turned directionless. For many fans, the true soul of Family Guy was the unexpected partnership between a martini-sipping dog and a homicidal baby. Early seasons mined that odd couple for gold. Episodes like Road to Rhode Island, Road to the Multiverse, and the bottle episode Brian and Stewie balanced slapstick with surprisingly heavy themes: addiction, mortality, even existential dread. Brian's weary intellect offset Stewie's diabolical ambition, and their banter gave the series its rare moments of sincerity. Then the center drifted. Brian's arc shrank from struggling novelist to preachy hypocrite. One week he's lecturing Quahog on tolerance, the next he's dating an underage girl or abandoning his own son, Dylan. Stewie's grand designs vanished, replaced by one-off quirks, jealous of a preschooler in one episode, questioning his sexuality the next, a campy show-tune machine after that. Their celebrated Road to adventures grew infrequent and formulaic, stripping away the cinematic flair that once felt special. With the duo's depth diluted, the show lost its emotional anchor, and without that gravity, even the wildest Griffin escapades felt weightless. Side characters, from rich ensemble to one-note props. Early Quahog buzzed with memorable personalities. Quagmire was sleazy yet complex, Joe balanced wheelchair gags with real heroism, and Cleveland delivered calm, dry punchlines. Mayor Adam West's surreal non-sequiturs, Mort's anxious rants, and Herbert's eerie whistles added weird charm. Later seasons drained that depth. Quagmire became a one-note predator. Joe reduced to shouting, "I'm in a wheelchair." Cleveland returned from his spin-off with no growth. After Adam West's passing, no character filled the absurdist void. With side characters flattened, Quahog feels emptier, and every episode leans harder on the worn-out Griffin antics. Humor without heart, when laughs stopped lasting. Classic Family Guy could be outrageous one minute and sincere the next. A wild Stewie scheme might pause so Brian could wrestle with mortality, or Peter's idiocy would end in a surprisingly sweet family moment. That emotional whiplash, chaos followed by a gut-level truth, made the jokes land harder and linger longer. In later seasons, that pause for heart disappeared. Story beats exist only to cue the next gag. Any hint of growth is undercut by an instant vomit joke or violent slapstick reset. Because nothing matters, nothing sticks. Characters don't evolve, Consequences vanish by the tag, and even the best punchline evaporates once the credits roll. Fans can still chuckle, but they no longer care. Comedy without stakes turns into background noise, and a show once famous for mixing shock with soul now offers shock alone, echoing in a hollow room. Meta jokes and self-awareness. Too little, too late. As complaints piled up, Family Guy tried to get ahead of the backlash by roasting itself. Episodes openly mocked lazy writing, endless cutaways, and even dwindling ratings. Early self-digs felt clever, proof the staff heard fans and might course correct. But change never came. Meta lines became a shield. If the show admits it's recycling the same meg-abuse gag, that somehow excuses leaving it in. Viewers quickly caught on. Pointing at a leaky roof isn't the same as fixing it. Laughing at bad storytelling doesn't make the story good. Worse, the jokes oozed cynicism. Yeah, we know it's bad, but you're still watching, right? That wink without effort pushed many longtime fans over the edge. Self-awareness without improvement isn't satire, it's surrender. The fall and why it still matters. Family Guy didn't implode overnight, it eroded. Characters flattened, jokes chased shock, and self-awareness replaced self-improvement. What's left often feels like a hollow echo of the show that once redefined primetime animation. Yet the decline is important. It's a textbook warning for long-running series. Popularity isn't permission to coast. Fan devotion can resurrect a show, but it can't sustain one that stops evolving. Shock only works with substance. Push boundaries, but anchor them in story and empathy. Characters are currency. When the audience stops caring about the people on screen, no amount of gags can buy back attention. Early Family Guy remains a masterclass in fearless comedy. Its later seasons remind creators that longevity demands growth, not repetition. The silence from former fans isn't just disappointment. It's proof that even the loudest show can fade if it forgets why people listened in the first place. If this breakdown made you look at Family Guy a little differently, there's plenty more where that came from. I'm diving into the wild stories behind the world's most iconic cartoons, the highs, the lows, and everything in between. Hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and I'll catch you in the next one.